It is the Martha Zoller Show, and I'm really excited because this is a good local issue to talk about, and it's something that's on everybody's mind all the time. They might not know it, but I think as we get into this, you're going to find out we're all thinking about it. It's the North Georgia Land Trust, and Brent Hoffman is joining me right now. This was his baby. He put it together with a lot of folks from the community, and we're going to talk about it today. Welcome, Brent.
Martha, pleasure to be here. Good to see you again.
Thank you so much. So this is kind of your baby, right? You've been thinking about this a long time, and I would assume because you were in the real estate business.
Well, that's right. I've been here since 1989. I've been in commercial real estate, and I'm retired, but I've learned a lot about land and have a lot of contacts and a lot of people that I've learned and gotten to know through the 35 years of doing real estate, and I've always wanted to start a land trust, and that's a little bit of a story, but 25 some odd years ago, I married, actually 35 years ago, I married my wife, Paula Hoffman, and her family has a lot of property over in Huntsville, Alabama. And as a new entry into their family, I was lucky to be included in a small family partnership who owned some land over there. And my father-in-law through the years kept wondering what to do with this land. And I said, Dad, well, you don't necessarily need the money. Why don't you donate it? And he did. And that was our family's first touch with a land trust, and created a legacy for them. And I learned what a land trust did, and that's when I decided years ago I'm going to do one. It's just a matter of when.
So what is a land trust?
Great question. I call it a holding vehicle for land, but it's a nonprofit. The folks, the North Georgia Land Trust makes no money. I make no money. In fact, it costs me money to do this. But and our board, great board of directors, makes nothing. It's literally a nonprofit that has gone through the state, and we're a 501c3, and we have a dedicated board and a list of objectives. And a business ethic that says any land that we obtain will be kept green forever. And we think we need that. It's timely here in North Georgia that we really take a look at the other side of the equation. Development is so important. It feeds our families, and we won't be an anti-development land trust, but we think we ought to spend as much time and effort saving land in North Georgia as we do developing it.
So what are your goals?
We really have about 3 or 4 goals. Number one is to be the most respected nonprofit in North Georgia. Being transparent and running our organization the right way the first time is very important. So being ethical and following all the rules that a land trust needs to do. Number 2 is we'd like to save 1,000 acres in 2 years, and particularly in the Hall County area. That's where we're starting. We all see the need potentially to do that here and do it quickly. We are becoming a Gwinnett, and if you ask friends, neighbors, associates, I think that's on people's minds. And then I'd like to endow this land trust, not me personally, but I'd like to make a community movement full of citizens like me and you and our listeners that realize it's important and chip in. And it's really that easy. You can become a member of the land trust. You can donate to the land trust if you'd like to, but create a movement about green space in North Georgia.
I think that's really exciting because, Lynn and I have this joke we tell about how someday we're going to move somewhere where there's just internet and UPS and just be in the middle of nowhere, because we kind of thought that's what this was when we moved here. Lynn grew up here, but I moved here from Metro Atlanta. I grew up in DeKalb County, and DeKalb County amazingly does have a lot of green space that you don't think that they would have. Even as built up as it is, they do still have forests. I mean, Atlanta is a very green city.
It is.
When you fly into Atlanta, it's not just built up everywhere, which is a good thing. So I think we've got a good step to look at. But we here in North Georgia, I think we've kind of taken it for granted that we live in a more rural area and that it's never going to get grown up. Well, I mean, I moved out into North Hall in 1997. We had lived in the city until then. And, it's a completely different place than when we moved up out there. And luckily, where we live, we're on 4 acres. The guy next to us has 26. The guy on the other side has 17, and the person in front has 8. So we have a nice little chunk of land that probably isn't going to change that much, in the interim. But when you get out on the road and make the first turn, there's a lot of changes.
Well, we all see the development, and again, this land trust, my plans for this land trust are not to be at rezoning meetings and fight development. That's not what we're about. But I don't think many of us realize the importance of farming in this community, and it is our number one moneymaker in Hall County. The poultry industry and farming is so important to North Georgia, and I think as the average Joe that I am, I used to not think about where my food comes from. I go to Kroger or I go to Publix and I walk out with corn and et cetera, and it's easy and it's simple, but think about where your food comes from and think about our real local economy is agrarian based, and how can we protect that, and do we want to protect it?
So getting back to the land trust, though, since it's a 501c3, people can donate to that, and that is tax deductible, correct? Because they're not going to make money off of this land trust. They're going to be donating to this land trust. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's 2 or 3 ways that the land trust works. Number one, as we go public, and we are today, and we're doing it more and more, but people will hear more about us as we continue to go to public. The basis of a land trust are the donors and the citizens in a community who say, I'd like more green space, and donate money to the land trust. Eventually, as we grow the land trust, the North Alabama Land Trust that I am patterning this land trust with or for has 2,300 members. That's people like me and you that give $100 or give $1,000 a year or are members. That builds money in our trust that allows us to communicate, and go talk to landowners about donating their land. So it's the donors that we're looking for. And then most importantly, and as importantly, we work with landowners in Hall County, Stevens County, Jackson County. We are going to go speak to landowners about preserving and or donating their property. And there's 2 ways to do that. They can donate their property, literally donate, give us their land, and we'll keep it green forever. There's 3 words I want people to understand about the land trust. We're local. That's important, just like your radio station. Local is important. We're forever, right? Everything you do with the land trust is forever. And that's key. And forever is a long time is another word. Everything we do is forever. So those are the 3 things. That's
exciting. That's very exciting. Now, we got a question in from somebody. Joe wanted to know, land trust sounds good, but does it take away viable options for homeowners to build single-family residences, or does it limit options and force us into an apartment community?
I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I don't think the land trust is going to cut down on development. There are folks in this community and farmers, et cetera, that would like to create a legacy. Their family has been here hundreds of years farming the same piece of property. Some of those don't want their property to be developed in the future. They'd like to continue farming the property and using it for they'd like to continue using their property for green space and farming forever, logging, et cetera. So will we take away from residential development? Perhaps slightly, but we won't affect our kids getting houses.
Yeah, and you're not affecting at all what an individual does with their property. You are talking to individuals that have property and seeing how you can help them in that way, if I understand it.
Exactly. Everything the land trust does is voluntary with a landowner. We all have to totally agree on what's done. So somebody can donate their land to us, or somebody can do what's called a conservation easement with us. So that's a conservation easement is just voluntarily a farmer or a landowner can give up development rights. And they can voluntarily agree to not divide their property in the future. They can say, I'd only like to build a cabin or two on my 200 acres. And they agree to that. And then the land trust takes that easement and holds it forever. And that property doesn't have to have homes or residences built on it, will never have, won't have sewer brought by the city of Gainesville or another city, won't have to have sewer, won't have to have water, fire protection, all those things. It allows a land to lay useful in a green space sense, and it allows it to be preserved forever. And we could use more of that.
And is there an idea as time goes on, and maybe you have more experience with the North Alabama one that you're talking about, would this land at some point be opened up for people to use, like a park or something like that?
Yes. Our goals as a land trust, our board of directors thinks it's important to allow public access. However, there's a big caveat there. Public access for land that is donated to us, that is ours. We hope to make it available for low impact trails, horseback riding, frisbee golf, for a place for you and your family to go have a picnic, workout,
have a pickup baseball game.
Have a pickup baseball game. Yeah, no lights though. Low impact, public recreational space, wooded areas, fishing. For those that donate their land to our land trust. But if you're a homeowner, a property owner, and you do a conservation easement, that's still your property.
Right.
The landowner still owns that property forever. It's just that they've agreed not to develop it. And the tax ramifications and the benefits to a landowner or a farmer are very nice for the tax reasons. Great tax deduction and benefits to working with a land trust.
That's very exciting. Now we're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk more with Brent Hoffman, and we're going to talk more about this. We'll be back. It is the Martha Zoller Show, and we love being local, and that's what we do. We're always here. We're always local. Brent Hoffman's here with me today. You might know from the real estate business, but now he's retired from that, and he's the CEO of the North Georgia Land Trust, and we're talking about that today as they roll out this very exciting proposition to protect the community here that we have. And we had a question from a listener that said, can the land inside a gated community be donated?
Boy, that's a great question. The answer is yes, if it isn't deed restricted, if it isn't part of a already set up HOA, homeowners association, potentially, yes.
Yes. So in your career, you were always in commercial real estate?
Yes, commercial land and acreage.
So what did you see throughout that time? Because the way you told the story was that you married someone who got you involved in this land trust idea way back when,
right.
And then you're in sort of a business where you're dealing with commercial land. How did this kind of culminate throughout the years? Because I'm sure you saw a lot of things change over the years.
I did. I'm passionate about commercial real estate. I love what I do. But after doing it for 35 years, I just couldn't shake the idea of creating a land trust. I wish I could have done it earlier, but I had to feed my family and survive. When I moved here to Gainesville in 1989, my wife was, I think, the third physical therapist at the medical center. Gainesville is such a great place to live, and I know everyone says that, but it is so great to live here. I know you have the same passion.
Yes,
we look at each other and we're shaking our heads,
yes.
And we're so lucky to live here. But one of the reasons that people come here, I find when I'm doing the presentations about the land trust, is simply because of the outdoors, the lake, the woods, the Appalachian Mountains, the being able to go and enjoy a winery within 30 minutes and overlook the vistas. I'm passionate, our group is passionate about saving those vistas, and the tax benefits to an owner who decides to donate or do a conservation easement are significant, and that's one reason to do it. But the real reason is heartfelt. It's setting up a legacy for your family, knowing that the property that you might donate or do a conservation easement on literally will be kept that way forever, and our tagline is "Forever's a long time."
And, the foresight that people have to have, if you've ever flown into New York City, okay, the fact that there's this Central Park in the middle of New York City,
Right.
when clearly it could have just been built up all the way up Manhattan, but it's a beautiful green space. It may not be the kind of green space we like with vistas and mountains, but it is a big open space that wouldn't have been there if somebody didn't have the foresight to see it. And I think we see that. I'd mentioned coming into Atlanta. Atlanta has a lot of green space that most big cities our size, do not have. And that's what we have to protect here. And I love the fact you're connecting it kind of to the North Georgia mountains because it is 30 minutes to a winery, an hour to get to the start of the Appalachian Trail. You've got, it used to be an hour to Atlanta. Now it's sometimes 2. But you've got the ability to get to Atlanta quickly, too. This is a great place to live. But I don't want to fight traffic here like I did in Atlanta.
Right.
Okay? And so I think the land trust, even though that's not directly involved in that, that is part of what's going to help in that situation.
Well, you're right. Our forefathers and foremothers, or whatever term you'd like to use, how many times have you been in a national park and you may have said to yourself, God, somebody did this.
Yes.
And it can be done. And now's the time. It really, if we can build a community around this land trust idea, and if we can find people that feel the same way, our influence. Take the Gainesville Trail. The Highlands Islands to Highland Trail that goes through the city of Gainesville. Our city council, our past city managers, assistant city managers, they had a vision of what this could be, and now it's the Midtown area. I always fought to label it the Uptown area, but anyway, Midtown works just fine. And what a great trail! And I know people in our community have walked it. And if you've ever spent an hour at a local brewery watching people walk by, it's packed. That's the kind of outdoor activity we need to have, that you were talking earlier about, getting a baseball game up and going at a local field. But walking, riding a bike, enjoying our outdoors, we need more of it.
Absolutely. And, I heard the concern in the first question. There's a lot of concern about the number of apartments and the number of houses. And this is maybe a little more on your real estate hat than your North Georgia Trust hat. But I think there is a big concern among especially younger people. Like, they're not the first job. They're going into their second job. They're maybe just getting on the property ladder. And they feel like they get worried that if we start taking land out of the mix, mm-hmm. that it's going to make it even more expensive for them to buy a home. And there's a lot of fear about that. I mentor a lot of people in their 30s right now, mm-hmm. and it comes up in every discussion. They're concerned that they're not going to be able to buy a home because there's not very much at that first price point. And the first price point has gotten so much higher that they feel a little overwhelmed about it.
Well, the old saying in real estate, beneath all is the land. Certainly land has been a great investment if you had the fortitude to invest it, and you can wait it out and go through the economic cycles that we've all been through. But I personally, I'd love to have the problem that so many people came to land trust and saved their land that became an issue. But I just don't see it happening. The North Alabama Land Trust has 10,000 acres that they have preserved. I'd love to get to 10,000 acres or 20 or 50,000 in North Georgia, but we're talking about a huge geographical area, and housing costs are really a cost of additional government and a housing code. So I don't think we're there yet.
And how can people get more information about the North Georgia Land Trust?
Our website is fabulous. Morton Vardaman and Carlson did it. Thank you. NorthGeorgiaLandTrust.org, or my cell phone, 770-540-5373.
Brent Hoffman, always here, always local.